Before I start, I gotta tell you, church, this one was hard. I wrestled and it easily could have gone on for half an hour. Don't worry, it doesn't. But I would like you to tell me, if you feel so moved after the service, what I left out, because I feel like this was one where there's so much. I had a hard time, and I apologize. I really wrestled. Jacob had nothing on me this week. Thank you for your kindness. In 1982, I spent several months in Pakistan. At the time, the Christian population in Pakistan totaled around 2%. Historical, religious, and political forces placed those Christians at the bottom of every economic or social scale that you could name. Generally, you could find these people living in the worst part of any village, clustered around either the dump or the sewage pond. In society, they were the target of discrimination and contempt. From time to time, incidents reflecting this still show up in the international news. We were sent to assist a school serving this minority Christian population. As part of that, we would go visiting in remote areas, hanging out in places far beyond any tourist track. And every time, we would be served tea. It was always the same. We'd be seated outside on a kind of string bed with all the village Christians sitting on the ground around us. Water would be heated over a fire of dried water buffalo dung and tea brewed. Along with our cups, there would be a plate of biscuits, cookies, that someone had rushed to the market to buy just for us. We were expected to drink the tea, eat the biscuits, and share in the fellowship of our sisters and brothers in Christ. It was one of the hardest things I have ever done. Pakistanis are beautiful people with dark eyes and jet black hair. However, in these villages, most of the children's heads were orange. My heart sank every time I saw this because that orange was a sign of malnutrition. Those kids were not getting the right amount of food for growth. And someone had just spent their last rupee to buy me cookies. I always wanted to give that cookie to one of the kids, though I never did that. The refreshments were a gift from this village, and my job was to accept them with a smile. It would have been highly offensive to decline. And I knew that, and sat in humbled awe every time this happened. Before, I'd been used to people giving out of their abundance. This was a profound experience of people giving out of their lack. There was joy and gracious welcome on these people's faces as they freely gave something that I felt they could not afford to give. It seems important to say that I'm not suggesting my friends didn't love their children. I know they did. Neither am I criticizing them. The last thing I'd want to do to people who lived in an entire society that scorned them was to second guess their choice, their free choice. We were visiting them in their homes, and they decided the appropriate way to welcome us. I'm also not suggesting we should deprive our children of the nourishment that they need, but rather consider the attitude that my Pakistani teachers had. Whenever world development groups talk about the over 1 billion people that live on less than $1 a day, I think of my Pakistani friends. And I think of them again when I hear what Paul writes today to his apprentice Timothy about contentment, money, and life. For these people had so very little, yet handled it with open hearts. Paul writes, "Of course, there is great gain in godliness combined with contentment, for we brought nothing into the world, so that we can take nothing out of it. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil." Today we listen in on some ancient advice. Some parts of Paul's letter are well known, although generally misquoted. When I first looked at the Bible selections for today, I envisioned an ancient map. It would be on that old crinkly parchment, drawn in fading ink, and have pictures drawn at the edges. And underneath the pictures we would read, warning, here be dragons. Our relationship with wealth, whether we have it or not, how we use what we have, how we relate with those who do not have it, is indeed challenging territory. Jesus clearly thought it important. It is one of the topics he talks about most. Our Hebrew scriptures, too, are full of references to this subject. It seems that these waters are meant to be explored. Yet when many Christians are polled, they report that they never hear money preached about in church except when it is time to fund the budget. And I promise I didn't know you were going to have a stewardship announcement. Dragons, indeed. There is pain here, and disappointment, entitlement, competition, and fear. We are not the same in our histories, our opportunities, or our circumstances with wealth. There are many people who do not have Paul's basic standard for contentment, food, and clothing. And there are many who might be considered cogs of the rich man in Jesus' parable. In addition, our relationship to wealth is mixed all through our dark and painful national history of privilege, race, class, injustice, and exploitation. From the first time a European colonizer got off a boat, the love of money unleashed havoc and destruction on what has become our nation. Given all of this, I'll admit I was tempted to join my fellow preachers in skipping this passage this morning. Who would have thought Abraham and the beggar and the rich man would be the safe choice? I'm also convinced that there is value in examining these mindsets in the light of Scripture. So what makes it so hard to hold money lightly in open hands? Or as a colleague of mine says, if this is good news, why aren't we living it? It is connected to the fundamental needs of our life. We need to survive. We need self-esteem and affection. We need power and control. To survive, we need water, food, and clothing to care for our bodies. We need shelter from the weather, medicine when we are ill, and a safe place to sleep. We need to know that our existence offers something to the world, that we are enough as we are, that we belong. We need to know that we are loved. Finally, we need to believe that life is not entirely capricious and unreliable. So each of these needs, survival, self-esteem and affection, power and control, must be met for us to live. They are crucial, they are required for us to exist and thrive. Yet our effort to fulfill any of them, when disconnected from God, can be warped into a compulsive, unproductive drive, bringing spiritual and emotional dis-ease. Money in and of itself is neutral, neither bad nor good. It's how we live with it, our relationship to it, that feeds and drains our soul, or helps us to see our neighbors in need. Does God give the world enough for everyone to have these basic things, for everyone to thrive, as our psalmist maintains this morning? We don't seem to act like it. I think we don't believe that God provided enough because we are afraid in several ways. And it is when we are afraid that the drive to fulfill these natural, necessary needs can become unhealthy. When we bring that fear to our daily necessities, something that is basic and good can morph into a source of struggle, disconnection, and anxiety. We may be afraid of the unpredictability of life and think that money can protect us from that. This can look like the need to always have more, that there is never enough. It's the "he who dies with the most toys wins" bumper sticker. Unfortunately, as Paul notes, we can take nothing out of this world. And as Hurricane Fiona just reminded us, nothing guarantees that the things we own today will be there tomorrow. We may be afraid that we ourselves are not enough. Not smart enough, not handsome enough, not strong enough, not fill in the blank enough, not worthy of love. We may think that cash can substitute for self-esteem or buy respect or affection. This can look like the need to always have more education, more beauty procedures, more on-trend clothing, or the most social media likes. Yet we will all experience the effects of aging, no matter how much we dedicate to cover up the signs. While affection built on things tends to dissipate when the things are gone. We may be afraid of not getting our share, of having others' needs put before ours, and believe that wealth can bring power and control. Then the next unexpected event reminds us just how little we truly oversee. After all, when we try to control situations and other people, we are in competition with 7 billion other people, many trying to do the same impossible thing. It can't possibly work. The statistics are against us. Wealth and power are unreliable objects of faith, for they are fleeting and provide little hope in the face of death. Money cannot buy happiness or love. The drive to pursue these fake remedies can be never-ending and exhausting. It can rob us of time with loved ones, deny us joy, compromise our values, and in the end, not provide us with the protection, peace, or love that we crave. So what about my Pakistani friends living in such extreme poverty? How do they fit into all of this? Paul talks to us about them too. When fear gets us wrapped up pursuing wealth, self-worth, and power, it can keep us from seeing others and their needs. We can lose our connections with others as siblings in the human family. I was listening on my drive here this morning to the news talking about immigrants sent from Florida to Martha's Vineyard this week. How is it that we cannot see other people as opposed to props? When we are so focused on pursuing things that will never fulfill what we hope they will fulfill. As Mother Teresa said in a slightly different context, if we have no peace, we have forgotten that we belong to each other. So why exactly is all this good news? I've said a lot of depressing things this morning. Paul gives us a remedy for all of us, all of this. Following the life of faith is the productive path that slowly turns us to true life, deepening peace and recognition of our interconnectedness with everyone in the human family. Loosening our grip on our unproductive striving allows us to reorient our lives to as he puts it, take hold of what really is life and see others as beloved companions. It can liberate us from the lie that money buys us happiness, that we are on our own, and that we do not really need each other. A life with this focus will not be about bank accounts and body shape, focusing instead on wealth beyond mere stuff that rusts and can be eaten by moths. Serving others will be part of its daily pattern. This is the truly productive and joyful life. So I'd like to suggest a new bumper sticker. He who died with the most toys lost